Hello, welcome back to my channel if you're new here. My name is Mary, and today's video is going to be the makeup and books tag.
I should've told you that I loved you one more time.
I've been thinking about doing this tag for a while because I originally started my channel doing a mixture of makeup and book content, and I've since switched most of my makeup content and my project painting and stuff to an Instagram that'll be linked in the description box down below. But this tag seems like a lot of fun. I saw this originally on Rachel Rex. I think it's supposed to be like Rachel Reads, but it's an X instead of the A in the word reads. She has a WordPress that's pretty old. The post for this tag was from 2017, but that is where I got these prompts. And so those are the prompts that I'm going to be following. I'll link her blog post down below. And I think other people have done YouTube videos of this. So I'll link any videos that I can sort of find down below as well. But without further ado, we're just going to get into the tag prompts. I have a feeling this video might be kind of long, so I've got a coffee. I would recommend you grab a beverage as well and get ready with me. The first prompt is for a primer. I don't use face primer. It's just something I've never really done. I just typically moisturize, but I'm going to start with my eyes today. So I guess I will zoom you in. Perhaps. That'll be good. And I'm going to use the Smashbox 24-Hour Eye Primer. So I'm just going to prime my lids with this. And the question for primer is a book that left a lasting impression on you. And I have a couple of answers for this actually, because there are a couple books that I can think of. One is a more recent read from 2018 that I read, and the other one is a read from when I was in middle school, which was like 12 years ago, 10 years ago, 10 to 12 years ago, somewhere in there. And so the more recent one that has left a lasting impression on me was Heart Spring Mountain by Robin MacArthur. And this is a book about a young girl who, her mother is a drug addict and she's from the Northeast. I believe they live in Connecticut, and they live in this place called Heart Spring Mountain. And during Hurricane Sandy, her mother goes missing, and so she has to come back up from New Orleans. She's been estranged from her mom and her whole family for years now, and she's basically going back up to find her mom. And it was really impactful. It reminded me a lot of like my family history, not in like, my family's not really anything like this, but a lot of the ways they describe the way that they live, like they were homesteading in like the 70s, I think. So none of them have indoor plumbing still. They all have outdoor bathrooms, which is very similar to the way my mother grew up. So, and she grew up in New Jersey, so not Connecticut, but like in that area, if that makes sense. So that's part of the reason this book sort of stuck with me, and a lot of the messaging in it and a lot of the aspects of dealing with family trauma and generations of family trauma really stuck out to me. It's a beautiful book. If you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. And the other one from middle school is Night by Elie Wiesel. I don't know how his last name is pronounced, but he was a Holocaust survivor, or is, I don't know if he's still alive, but he wrote several memoirs about the Holocaust, and I don't remember now if it's like his story or if it's a fictionalized version of the Holocaust, but it is just about like the way that Jewish people were rounded up and the way that they were treated. It's super harrowing to read. It's very short. And like I said, I read it in middle school, so I think it's definitely appropriate for younger audiences to read and to learn about. But that's a book that I will never get some of the imagery from that book out of my head. And the next prompt is eyeshadow. So I'm just gonna do my eyes. I'm using several palettes, so I'll just show them to you now. I'm using the I Heart Revolution Chocolate Truffle palette. I'm also going to be using a little bit of Makeup Maniac's Green Goddess 2, and I'm probably going to dip into my NYX Ultimate Utopia at some point. So the prompt for this one is to pick a book with your favorite colors on the cover. And so my favorite colors are like pastel-y, pale, bluish purple, like a light lavender, lilac-y color. And What Should Be Wild has some flowers around the edges that are that color. So that is what I picked for this. That's a book that I read last year. And What Should Be Wild is about a girl. I've talked about this a bunch of times. It was one of my 5-star reads from 2020. And it's about this girl who, let me find a brush. It's about this young girl who grew up in her dad's custody, and she has never been allowed to touch other people because she's cursed. And her curse is that if she touches anything that used to be alive and is now dead, it comes back to life. And if she touches anything that is alive, it dies. So at one point in the story, her dad goes into the woods, which is where all of the cursed women from her family history have sort of disappeared to, and she has to find him in this in the woods. And it has a little bit of a found family element, a little bit of a light romance element, Lots of twists and turns. It's a very weird book, but I really loved it. I'm gonna speed through the rest of my eye makeup because that's the only book I have to talk about.
I don't really know what you mean when you say I'm not what you need.
I forgot to grab my e.l.f. X J palette because it has a red shimmer that I wanted to use. It's the shade Strawberry here. But I have a full review of this palette on this channel still. So if you are interested in, like, I think it's 7 looks with this palette. I don't know if this palette is even still available, but I do, if you have this palette and you were wondering more looks you can do with it, I do have a full review. So I will link that somewhere for you. I also have a full review of the NYX Ultimate Utopia palette, and I will link that somewhere else, or somewhere with this as well. I'll link any reviews of any of the products that I use, just so that you can see them and maybe see if it's something you'd want to purchase or if it's something that you already own, if it's not available anymore. So you can see looks that I did with it.
Champagne, every shotgun shot and I'm losing my mind, but I just can't fight it. You know, I've been waiting for you all night. Just face it. I'm gonna make you mine. I'll be your angel. You got
My Anastasia Glow Kit. I'm gonna use white sand. And now I'm done with the eyeshadow section, so I'm gonna move on to eyeliner. And I'm gonna be using the NYX, this is their just regular eyeliner stick in the shade All Time Olive, and I'm just gonna put this in my waterline. And the prompt for eyeliner is to pick a dark and mysterious book. This isn't a super dark eyeliner, oh, and it needs to be sharpened. But for this, I said The Library at Mount Char by Scott Hawkins. The Library at Mount Char is a really, really weird book. It's sort of like, it's definitely speculative. I don't know if it would be considered sci-fi or fantasy, but it's about this group of 30-something-year-old people, and they have been raised as librarians in this library since they were little kids, and each of them has a subject that they are masters on. So one of them is like really well versed in animal cultures and like how to interact with animals and like speaking animal languages. Another one is human languages, and another one is death. So she's been resurrected multiple times, and she's actually my favorite character. I think she's really cool. But it's just interesting to see, one of them is violence, so he knows everything about war and violence, and he's a very violent person. This book is super dark, super mysterious in the fact that you like don't really know what's going on for most of it. I'm gonna zoom you out now. There we go. But I would really recommend it for people who like dark and scary books. Not scary, dark and like, just like dark fantasy and weird books, I think is the biggest thing. If you don't like weird books, I don't think you would like it. But if you like things like Middle Game by Shannon McGuire, which is another one of my favorite books of last year, then I think definitely pick up The Library at Mount Char and give it a shot, because it's very weird and it's very twisty and turny, and you don't really know what's happening for a lot of it, but it is very good in my opinion. Now I'm going to go in with foundation. And for foundation today, I'm going to be using my Too Faced Born This Way 24-Hour Matte Foundation. I have the shade Vanilla. It's too dark for me. You'll see that. I'm very pale, but I bring it down my neck a little bit and I'm able to sort of make it work for me. So we're gonna do that, just a pump and a half on the back of the hand. This is a full coverage foundation, which is something that I really like. So if you don't like that, probably not for you, but again, it's something that I enjoy. And the prompt for foundation is a favorite first book in a series. And for this, I'm leaning way, way back. And I'm going to talk about The Hunger Games. So that's a series that I read when I was in high school. And I really enjoyed it. I think I read it around the time that the movies were coming out. I definitely was not like ahead of the curve on that one at all. And I'm sure you know what The Hunger Games is about, but something about that first book really drew me in. And it's still like I've yet to find a first book in a series that has quite drawn me in quite as much as that book has. I just thought the idea was so unique with like the kids being forced to fight each other. It honestly isn't, because like Ender's Game is sort of not the same. It's like space opera-y, but it's like the same concept of like kids being trained to kill each other. But something about like Katniss's relationship with her sister and the YA love triangle, like it's very classic YA now, but I feel like for me, especially at that time, I didn't read a ton of books like that, or really anything like that. So it was very unique for me, very captivating. And I was really disappointed with the way that series went. I've yet to pick up Songbirds and Snakes. I plan to at some point, but it's just not like a high priority read for me, if that makes sense. But if you have read that one, let me know down below what you thought of it, because I'm very curious. For concealer, I'm going to be using the Urban Decay Stay Naked Concealer. I have this in the shade 20WY because I have a yellow undertone to my skin. So the prompt for this is to pick some characters that you wish didn't exist. I actually had a really hard time with this one, just because I feel like even villains in stories, like, you know, they're there for a purpose. And so for me, it was hard to, I'm looking in the viewfinder while I apply this, by the way. That's why I'm looking like slightly to the left of, or to the right of the camera. But I came up with Bob Ewell from To Kill a Mockingbird. And there's been actually some recent, or I have recently found some discourse on To Kill a Mockingbird and why people wish it wasn't the book taught in school to teach us about racism as kids, specifically in the United States. I grew up in the southern United States, so it was really interesting to have a book set. I mean, I didn't grow up in Mississippi, which I think is where it's set, but like have a book set around sort of where I'm from and where people I knew live, because it felt really real for me, and it felt like something that could definitely still happen, and definitely like, it was like such recent history for us that I found it really impactful to read, but I do understand that it could be difficult to read for somebody who, you know, it's a difficult thing to have to learn about from the perspective of a little white girl, but because I was a little white girl, I think that made it, like, hit home for me more. Although I don't think we should be pandering talks on racism for kids to the white kids, if that makes sense. And I think it would be more beneficial now, being an adult and like looking back on it. I think it definitely would be more beneficial to read books from Black authors about the Black experience. And if racism is something that you're going to teach, I think there are probably way better books to teach than To Kill a Mockingbird. But the character that I said, I don't remember if I said it already, was Bob Ewell, who is the man who accused the Black man of raping his daughter, which is, I guess, trigger warning, but I read it in like 8th or 9th grade. That was another book that I read really young in school. But it's about the subsequent lawsuit after that happens, and it's about specifically Scout, this little girl whose father, Atticus, is the attorney for the Black man in this town, and what that sort of is like for her. But it's like her learning experience from that. Anyways, the next one is powder. And for this, I'm using the Coty Airspun powder. I can't show you it because mine's like all busted up. But the prompt is to pick your favorite last book in a series. And for this, I said Always and Forever, Laura Jean from the To All the Boys I've Loved Before series, which I read earlier this year. Y'all, I loved that book. I have a whole video on the book versus the movie, and I definitely think the book was better than the movie in this instance. I preferred the first movie to the first book, but that's another story. But it basically is, it's just the last book in To All the Boys I've Loved Before, so it's about Laura Jean and her boyfriend Peter Covey, and them trying to decide, or Laura Jean Covey and her boyfriend Peter Kavinsky, my bad, And they're about to go to college because they're about to graduate high school, and it's just sort of like the end of an era, I guess, and it's giving you like the follow-up story, how they're dealing with their lives and sort of what's happening. And it made me cry. It like was really so impactful for me, and I don't think I've felt that impacted by a YA contemporary probably since I was like 16. I didn't know that as a 25-year-old woman I could be impacted by YA contemporary, but I still can. So it definitely like reinstilled a desire to read YA contemporary in me. And it's still very hit or miss for me, but something about those books really just like were nostalgic, even though I hadn't read them when I was younger and I hadn't even experienced the story until the first movie came out, and I was like 23 at the time, I think. Now we are gonna do, it says eyebrows, so we'll do eyebrows. I am gonna do my eyebrows off camera, but I'll do the prompt really quick. And it is, pick a book you think everyone should read. I think it's because everyone should do their eyebrows. Not really, but like, you can see how light my eyebrows are. Once I have my eyebrows on, I feel like a person finally. And the book that I chose for a book that everyone should read is another book that I read earlier this year. And it's definitely going to be on my top picks of the year. And it's In Order to Live by Naomi Park, which is about a young girl who, when she's like 13, escapes North Korea with her mother through sex trafficking in China. And it's just really impactful, really powerful. I'll try to link some of her public speaking down below because she does some public speaking, and there's some here on YouTube. And she's just like an incredible person, so well spoken, so well like mannered, so incredibly like brave. And the fact that she had to go through that when she was so young really just like blows my mind, because I can't imagine doing any of that even now. So yeah, that's definitely a book that I think should be on everybody's list. And I'm gonna do my brows and I'll be right back. Okay, I've got a stronger brow on this side than this side, but that's okay. They're sisters, not twins. I just use the NYX Professional Brow Pencil. It has a spoolie on one end and a pencil on the other. And this is in the shade Dark Brown, which is dark for my hair now, but I used to have really dark brown hair. If you've been following around for a while, you know that. I'm on a little bit of a hair journey right now. I'm trying to get my hair to go silver, and it doesn't seem to be sticking anywhere on the ends. And I think it's because there's so much color buildup from the brown dye that I was using for so many years. And then I also have the 24-hour brow setter. Can you even see that? Yeah, from Benefit, which is a great product. Pretty expensive, but if there's a sale, I would recommend it. I think it's a good brow gel if you're looking for that. There's not a prompt for bronzer, but I'm just going to do my bronzer and blush while I talk about the next two books that I picked for the blush prompt. And so I have the Urban Decay Beach Bronzer in Sunkissed. I'm trying to use this up, and I'm pretty close. So we've got some good use on this. This will probably last me another like a month to 6 weeks, but I'm hopeful that I can use this up soon, so then I don't have so many bronzers in my collection, because I just don't need that many. And then I'm going to be using the Cover FX Blush Duo in Pink Dahlia, which is something that I got and I've rarely touched. So I just need to use this more. I'm probably going to use both sides, but I'll start with the bronzer. But the blush prompt is to pick a cringeworthy romance. And so I have read quite a few cringeworthy romances in my time. I don't like historical romance is something that I've sort of picked, or I haven't read any historical romances that I've really like thoroughly enjoyed. Sorry, there's a hair in my brush. But specifically, the first romance that I read was an accidental read. I thought it was like a mystery type book, and it's an Alyssa Cole book. So if I had known anything about like Alyssa Cole, I think I would have known that it was a romance, but I didn't at the time. I read this a few years ago, and it was An Extraordinary Union, which is a book in a series by her. I think it's the first book in a series of historical romances set during the Civil War, and they're all between I want to say like Black women who are either slaves or like posing as slaves. I think the girl in the book was posing as a slave, as a spy for the Union, and the like love interest was a white Confederate soldier, but he was posing as a Confederate soldier. I don't really know. I just remember thinking it was like kind of awkward, and especially because I wasn't really like looking for a romance, it made me feel all kinds of weird when like, it wasn't even steamy, but like if anything happened, I think at one point she mentions him having like an erection, and I was like, So, I'm a little less, I guess, prudish about romance now, but, especially when I wasn't expecting it, and I didn't like love the characters and like the dynamic, it was really weird for me. And then the other one, that I'm going to talk about is Alex and Eliza by Melissa De La Cruz, which is another one that I just went into not knowing what it was going to be. And then when it was what it was, I was like, oh. Because I heard that she saw Hamilton and decided to make a romance based on Hamilton the musical. And so it is about Eliza Schuyler and Alexander Hamilton, but it's not based on Hamilton the musical. Like, it's not about the love triangle or any of that, which I know that's not historically accurate, but like this one. So what bothered me was this one wasn't historically accurate either, and it didn't have any of like the juicy bits that like I like from Hamilton. So it just didn't land for me. I didn't buy into the romance. I also maybe wasn't in the best place to read it. That was one of my worst books of 2020. I really disliked it. And I won't be continuing in that series, obviously. But those are the two like cringeworthy romances that I can think of. We're almost done here. I'm sorry, this has been such a long video. Next is highlighter. And for this, I'm trying to use this up. This whole thing. I used this shade up last year, and now I'm working to use up these two shades. So I've been using Snow as my face highlight a lot of the time, so I'm going to do that today. It's the white one. Let's pull out this. This brush is what I've been using for it. This is just a Morphe, like, I'm pretty sure this is supposed to be a concealer brush, but it works great for highlight. I find that most under eye setting brushes tend to be good highlight brushes, but the prompt for highlighter is pick a book that brightens your day. And for this, I said Someone Who Will Love You in All Your Damaged Glory by Raphael Bob Waxberg, who is the creator of BoJack Horseman. I feel like I've talked about this book a ton on my channel. It's a collection of short stories that are like absurdist fiction, and it just follows like people in different paths and different types of love. And it's fantastic. I really, really loved it. There's one story about superheroes who only have powers when they're like blackout drunk, which is just hilarious. And there's another story about a guy who works at like a Disney World type of amusement park, but instead of like Disney characters, it's former presidents walking around. And it's hilarious. It's just such a good collection of short stories, and all of them I could see making like kind of hilarious like animated TV shows like Bob's Burgers or like BoJack Horseman. So I do really love that book. And the last prompt, I'm sure you're all ready to be done with me if you're even still here. Actually, there's two more because I skipped one because I wasn't ready to do my mascara yet. But we'll do lipstick. This is the Maybelline, I don't know what type of lipstick this is. It's super old, so I'm trying to use it up. Are you sensing a theme? But this is in the shade Mauve It Up. It looks really purple, but it's like kind of sheer. You can build it to be really purple, but I usually wear it kind of sheer. And the prompt for this is your favorite book, Kiss. And I could not come up with just one for this. So I said, like, there's obviously so many, but my like favorite one from recently that I've like recently read that like really, really sticks with me is Hunt and Bryce in Crescent City. Their like rooftop kiss, I love. So that's probably my favorite one at the moment. We'll see if that stays forever, but right now that's sort of what I'm feeling. And then the last prompt for real this time is mascara. So let me grab my mascara. I'm just using the CoverGirl Lash Blast Volume. I accidentally got this in brown, and I accidentally got a waterproof one, but it works. It's a dark enough brown that I don't think you can tell, and I don't like hate that it's waterproof. It's not super convenient. I don't like taking off waterproof mascara, but it is what it is. And the prompt for this one is to pick a long book, I guess because like mascara is lengthening. And so for this, I said The Stand by Stephen King, which was the longest book that I read last year. It's over 1,000 pages. The the like re-released not unedited, uncut, like director's cut, but it's a book, so like I don't know. But that book is a post-apocalyptic story about this like virus that takes out 99% of humanity, and so there's a couple people who are immune to it, and they have to band together, and they all start getting these weird dreams of a dark man and a like really old black lady. And so it's like good versus evil. It has a really disappointing ending, in my opinion. So you kind of read this whole book and then you're like, oh, that's the end? Okay. But I did enjoy it. It's very bizarre. But I liked the writing. I still don't think Stephen King has ever met a woman that he didn't hate. Because he just writes, in my experience, in everything that I've read from Stephen King, I've never like read a woman and been like, oh yeah, this is good representation. This is what women are like. It just seems like he throws in things because he knows his cats will like a lady with some big boobs or something. I don't really know. That is it. That is everything for this tag. This is my makeup look for the day. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. If you made it this far, I really appreciate it. If you've read any of these books, like I said, let me know down below. If you would like to do this tag, I would love to see you do it. I will leave, like I said, links to the blog post that I got this tag from. Again, I want to thank you so much for watching this video. Leave a lipstick emoji if you stayed for this long. That would be really cool. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!
I should've told you that I loved you one more time.